Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of Saberminded, a baseball podcast presented by The Dugout. I'm Dawson Wright here, joined by Noah Wright. And Noah, how's it going?
I was kind of frustrated earlier.
Yeah, I think we were all kind of frustrated, but it kind of worked out. Do you sort of want to explain what happened?
Yeah, so earlier on Twitter, yesterday, 2 days ago, it was Martin Luther King Day, and Andrew McCutcheon posted something with a Martin Luther King quote, which was, all nice, and some guy was being rude, extremely. He said, "Thanks for nothing for the Giants last year, you sellout jerk. Also, way too good. Also, do nothing with the Yankees last year." Yeah. And it only got worse from there because I presented the fact that how trades work and that you just don't have a choice to go to to a team and how he did do good with the Yankees last year. So he didn't take that too kindly, and he started calling me names and calling McCutcheon some names. And I think what the coolest part about all this was that Andrew McCutcheon liked my tweet and tweeted back. I don't have the tweet, but it was like, "Thanks for having my back out there," or something like that.
Yeah, I also replied to this dude, and because he was saying like, "Oh, all Giants fans feel betrayed by McCutcheon." I replied, "I'm like, dude, I'm a Giants fan. I know other Giants fans. I don't know anyone that feels betrayed. He was traded." And McCutcheon replied, and he was like, "Oh, I appreciate you, homie."
Yeah, so, that was really cool.
Yeah, we're boys now, I guess. So that was our little worst fan take, I guess. I don't know. Even though we're not really going to do that on this show anymore, we're just going to
It'll happen every once in a while
for
when
fun.
We see stuff like this.
Yeah, but we have a pretty loaded show today because we have Hall of Fame stuff that happened yesterday. We're going to talk about the Hall of Fame a little bit. Then after the break, we are going to be talking about the pitch clock, which we have talked about before on TSL, but now we're going to put a little bit of numbers spin on it. But let's go ahead and get started with the Hall of Fame. So one thing I saw on MLB Network this morning, they were talking to Ken Rosenthal, and Rosenthal was saying how we should use stats that mattered in that era, which I wasn't really sure how I felt about that, but so, Noah, do you think we should use stats that mattered in that era now, or should we use the stats that we have now?
I think maybe a little bit of both. What do you...
Okay.
I mean, I'm not going to just, let a guy in because he had a lot of wins in his career, but like an ERA, but... I mean, I would still give some consideration, speaking that he did have a lot of wins, and, it does show, longevity.
Yeah, that's true. But, because I believe he brought up Mike Mussina, who had 20 wins with the Yankees in his last season, which, that's great. It's something that's only been done, I think, twice by anyone. But we all know now pitching wins don't really matter, and... based off the 90s, they still didn't really matter. I mean, they matter even less now, considering how much more bullpens are used now, but they still didn't really matter back then, ever since bullpens were really introduced and being used, in the 7th inning. But, I mean, Mussina, he was deserving of it. He had a really solid career.
Yeah,
so,
and speaking that he did so great during the steroid era.
Mm-hmm. But I'd like to use, stats like WAR, WRC+, OPS+, when we're looking at someone to try and see what we see as their true value instead of just using batting average, OBP, right?
Yeah.
At least use OPS. When you're looking at hitters, you could use FIP when you're looking at pitchers. There's a lot of things that we can look at now that are available to us, and we could still compare players in that era using those stats.
Yeah.
So, that's what I have to say about it. But one thing that I was questioning, we were talking about, we just talked about Mike Mussina, who did really good in the steroid era, right?
Yeah.
So, should steroid era pitchers receive a boost like modern day hitters receive a downgrade when they go to cores?
I think maybe a little bit, but also I want to ask kind of a reverse question for hitters. Should steroid era hitters be given a downgrade?
I would say only if we know they're a known user.
Okay, so should
Like,
Bonds should Bonds get some sort of like bump in his like some sort of bump then?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I would say that's fair. But like, I mean, but some pitchers were on steroids though too, because like the problem is we don't know the exact amount of people who were on steroids. Some guys were using probably steroids that were stronger than others. So there's no way for us to sort of calculate that, to put it into an equation so we could decrease this guy's numbers by this percent or this percent, right? That wouldn't be possible. So we just sort of have to speculate. But I think like you get steroid era pitchers that were like clean. We know they're clean.
And had no like suspected history.
Probably. Yeah, no suspected history, so they're probably clean. Then I think they should get a little bit, because there were a lot of hitters, especially, who were on something. Well, speaking of Coors Field, Larry Walker was not elected into the Hall of Fame yesterday, so I kind of think that's crap.
Yeah, he has one more chance to get in.
Yeah, I think he really has a chance next year. Next year, the really only slam dunk Hall of Famer is Derek Jeter.
Yeah, that next year there's not very many like surefire Hall of Famers. It's mainly Jeter and a few others who are getting up there.
Yeah, next year the ballot is gonna open up a little bit, so it gives chances for a lot of guys like Bonds and Clemens, who we're gonna talk about in a little bit. But I mean, Larry Walker, career slash line of 313, 400, 565. And we know someone's going to bring up, oh, he played at Coors Field, which is really hurting him a lot, I would say. Because if he played this and played in, I don't know, Seattle, then no one would probably care.
Yeah.
But the thing is, he had an 865 career road OPS, which is 5 points higher than Ken Griffey Jr.
Yeah, and 10 of the 17 seasons he played in the MLB, he played with the Rockies, so...
Yeah.
A good portion of his career.
Mm-hmm. Like, Griffey did have more plate appearances. We know that's true. But still, it goes to show... Griffey received what, like 99% of the vote?
He got like 99. He was one. I think he was one vote off from getting 100%.
Okay, and then Larry Walker yesterday, I think he was around what, 50 something? Was he lower than that? But like the fact that Larry Walker isn't that higher up when his numbers, I would say his career numbers are better than Griffey's.
Yeah,
I would say.
He's got
just hitting. Not like we're not counting defense or anything.
Like not 965 OPS. That's really good. That's really good.
Yeah, I would say that's Hall of Fame worthy for sure. And one thing that you and I were talking about yesterday was Bonds and Clemens in the Hall of Fame, and I would say that Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens should both be in the Hall of Fame.
I would be very much more willing to give Clemens a vote than Bonds. So Clemens, he was a great pitcher, and even though he did take steroids don't help you. Steroids might add velocity, but steroids don't help you learn with really good control, which he had, and really good break on his pitches, which he had. You have to learn that through just arm slot and, grip on the ball. But
are you saying that Bonds didn't have to learn how to hit? He still had to make contact.
Yeah, but how much? But
steroids didn't increase his bat size.
Yes, but steroids did add a hefty amount of power to him.
Well, HGH gave more stamina to Clemens. It helped him rest between starts. It gave him more stamina.
He still has Though he still...
Bond still has to make contact. He still has to make good contact for it to get out. This is what I'm saying.
I know, but it still added a lot more strength to him. How many...
Did it?
Yeah.
How do you know?
Well, I mean, obviously by the growth in his growth from, like, 1990 to 2000, where he...
Alright, okay. Well, how much stamina did HGH provide Clemens?
I don't know how much it increased his power.
Did it increase his velocity, which would help him pitch? Velocity helps you pitch. There's a difference between 95 and 85.
You still have to...
I'm not saying Clemens is going to throw 85, but it helps him with the stamina in games.
It does, but
it's what I'm saying.
He still has to be able to locate that 95.
And Bond still has to be able to hit it.
Yes, but Bond has an easier time. Yes, but Bond still has much more strength than if he didn't take the steroids to hit the home runs.
Clemens still has a lot more stamina to pitch deeper in games and have increased velocity.
He still has to locate the pitch, though. He still has to grip.
This is what... It's the same thing.
Is it?
It's the same thing. Yes, it is.
How?
You're saying he still has to locate, right? Bond still has to locate his bat.
Yes, but when he does make
contact... Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
He still has to make contact. He does still have to make contact. I'm not saying, Bonds would have been a horrible batter if he didn't take the steroids. I'm just saying that if Bonds didn't take the steroids, he probably would not have been as great of a hitter. Would not probably have broke the home run record or had the single season home run record with 73 home runs in 2001. Whereas Clemens, I don't know if he would don't know if he would have as long of a career, but I still think that he would.
Exactly. You don't know. You don't know how long he would have gone in games. You don't know if his innings pitched numbers would have suffered. You don't know if his late inning numbers would have suffered, which they probably would have.
I'm still though. Bonds has to, even when Bonds makes contact, he has to, the steroids add power to him. Even if the steroids did add longer consistent velocity into later games into his later years, Clemens still has to locate the pitch, and he still has to put the grip on it to give it spin and movement.
And Bond still has... He still has to make contact.
It's
the same argument.
He still has to, but with the steroids, he probably doesn't break the home run record or the single season home run record.
Yeah, that's true. And with HGH, is Clemens as good of a pitcher? Probably not.
I wish the statistic for bumping their numbers down for if they were a steroid user or not did exist, because I would like to see, based on that, what his numbers would have been.
Well, it's just tough, because for both of them, we don't know. We'll never be able to tell the exact physical effects. I'm sure they'll never admit how often they did it. We don't know what they used specifically. I mean, with HGH, I don't know if it varies or not on how strong it is, so we don't know on that front how powerful it is.
How much more powerful it made him.
Yeah, how much more powerful it made them. But I just think the fact that, I think Bonds is the greatest hitter ever, just saying. And that's not my Giants fan bias. I used to not like Bonds at all.
Why?
But I don't know, because I thought the same thing that everyone else thinks. Like, oh, he's a cheater, integrity of the game, blah, 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 right? But it's gotten to the point where there's already people who have cheated in the Hall of Fame. Multiple Hall of Famers have admitted to cheating throughout the career. I'm not saying steroids. I'm saying cheaters.
Doctoring the ball. You told me this, doctoring the ball with, Vaseline, some sort of cream.
Yeah, Gaylord Perry, who said he used grease, every game. Are we not going to punish him for that? Because that probably had a pretty big effect on his pitches. There's a lot of pitchers now that use grease and pine tar, but nobody cares because everyone does it.
Back then
is it that cheating?
What the voters back then, they probably didn't know. If you think about the era, there's a lot less ways we could find out stuff. Things weren't as public as they are now.
But what I'm saying now is that the Hall of Fame already has cheaters in it.
That doesn't mean, just because it has cheaters in it doesn't mean that you should just let more in.
No, Well, that also means that people shouldn't say, like, oh, the Hall of Fame is this amazing place filled with these amazing people, because it's not.
Okay, that still doesn't mean that you should just let in
there's amazing players in it, but not... There's amazing players in it, but not everyone has the most amazing character or the best integrity, as a lot of people like to say.
Okay, that still doesn't mean that, oh, well, we already have cheaters in, so why don't we just let in more?
But, I don't know. Everyone was cheating, pretty much.
During
I
the
would
steroid
say
era?
a majority of MLB was cheating in the steroid era. And I think the fact that the Hall of Fame fails to recognize that era is a shame. Because the Hall of Fame it's not this prestigious place, you know, like I said earlier, full of the most amazing people. That's frankly not what it is. So if we stop treating it like it's that, then, because it's not,
I'm not saying it is, but that does still...
I know, but that's a common argument a lot of people use.
I didn't bring up that argument, but I mean, just because there are some players in there that, you know, weren't as integral as we say they are, or, you know, they did stuff that they probably shouldn't have, that doesn't mean that we should just let in more, you know?
Well, I'm just saying missing an entire chunk of baseball history where a lot of people were on the same thing is a shame. That's all I have to say about it. We are going to head to break, and then when we get back, we are going to be discussing the pitch clock.
Yeah, I love her all. Said she love me, but she cut me off. Yeah, late nights on the boulevard.
Alright, we are back, everybody. We are talking about everyone's favorite, the pitch clock. We have shared our opinions on the pitch clock in the past. We're gonna try and keep it somewhat neutral. I mean, I'm sure there's gonna be some stuff linking out, but as far as entertainment, and we're gonna throw a little bit of stats in here as well. But so it's been said, there's a study, the pitch clock would speed the game up for about 5 to 10 minutes.
Whoa! I can watch baseball now every day because of that 5 to 10 minutes.
I it's just right out of the gate, like as soon as we start. But players on Twitter have said that they should increase the strike zone instead, and that people will take pitches at a less extreme than they do now, with a more open strike zone, which raises the question, would pitchers dominate more with a bigger strike zone? And I think it would basically be the end of offense in all of baseball if all they did was just open up the strike zone. Because you have guys now that are just striking out with how small the zone is now.
You have guys like Joey Gallo going up there and striking out 250 times in a season, and they hit a home run every few at bats.
Yeah, or they roll over ground ball to second base. So increasing the strike zone would make them swing more, yes, but the question is, would it result in more contact? Because, like, it made them swing more, which would make the game go faster, but the thing is, MLB also wants more offense, and I don't think just doing that would help offense at all. Offense would die. Games would get a lot faster because every batter's striking out on 3 pitches. Like, can you imagine Matt Scherzer if they increased the strike zone?
You have in an era with now pitchers, especially relief pitchers, just being so dominant. Like, you have Scherzer, like you said, Verlander. What if Josh Hader, who had the most strikeouts by a left-handed relief pitcher in history?
Yeah, it'd just be unfair at that point. But former pitcher Eric O'Flaherty, he suggests lowering the mound or moving it back to compensate for an increased strike zone would help it, which, yes, it would, because they wouldn't be throwing as hard. I think flattening the mound helps the hitter's angle a little bit more than when pitchers are raised up.
Yeah.
It could lower their velocity a little bit as well, rather than straight backing it up. But after looking into a little bit, I have come to the conclusion that this is a terrible idea. Because, like, if you raise the strike zone more, people are saying it can put more balls in play, you know, because people will swing more often, right? That's the whole thing. But the thing is also, they could swing and miss more often, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Called strikes have seen an increase from the bottom of the zone, and they've reached slightly above 40% last year, compared to 20% in 2011. And that's mostly because pitchers have started to throw more pitches in the low corners of the zone, since that's what's being called strikes now, right?
Yeah.
So if you increase that even more, pitchers are just going to abuse that more, and batters are going to strike out either looking more, or they're going to swing and miss more, since they're being like, hey, that ball, like, almost at my feet's going to be called a strike.
I'm going to have to swing at it.
I'm gonna have to go golfing for a little bit. like I don't like.
I get frustrated when I see players do that. It's like, you do know we're playing baseball and not golf, because they'll swing at like ridiculous pitches in the dirt, and then you'll see like they're obviously not happy that they did that. But if they switch it to where it's the strike zone is like going below the knees, it's gonna be like that.
Yeah, I thought this was a good idea when I was researching this. I was like, oh, you know, opening up the strike zone, this is a good idea. I agreed with Eric O'Flaherty, but after looking at it, no. Contact rates have gone down. Making hitters swing at stuff they don't want to swing at is not a good idea. It may not, you know, make the game faster, like Rob Manfred wants games to finish in 10 minutes, but that doesn't work.
And this is this is all for 10 minutes off a game. All right then.
Mm-hmm. You could speed up the game a little bit and have more offense, but it gets to a point where when runs start scoring, innings get longer. This is how it works. You know,
you can't have both. It's either you have more offense or you have a shorter game. There's no in between.
Yeah, like games back in 1950, they took a lot less time, and you would see scores of like, I don't know, 7-5, and the game would finish in 2 hours. Why? Because people would swing at the first pitch most of the time. I think I was watching like the 1957 World Series, and I think I saw one person take a pitch, and that's because the ball was at his head. So he had to duck out of the way. And like in like the 3 innings that I watched, one pitch was taken. Like, I was like, you guys aren't gonna, like, I don't know, work the at-bats a little bit? And then you had Ted Williams, who revealed in his book, hey, don't swing at the first pitch ever, right? And then guys are saying, like, hey, that might be a good idea. Ted Williams is a really good hitter. And then you had all the analytics showing, hey, get later into at-bats, see more pitches, more chances the pitcher will make a mistake. You're never going to change that no matter what you do. People are going to want to take pitches to look at the pitcher, because guess what? That's smart. So even if you increase the strike zone, it'll increase swings, but it'll probably increase swings and misses as well.
Yeah.
Because who's gonna swing at a pitch that's like well below their knees, but it's still in the strike zone? Nobody, unless they have 2 strikes and they're like, oh shoot, this is gonna be a strike.
The plate.
So they'll swing at it and they'll either miss or go into a ground ball.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make a lot of sense when you really think about it at all, you know? I mean, I just don't get how guys like, I think it was Tom Verducci was saying like, we need to make the game a lot faster, and we also need a lot more runs, and stuff like that.
I also heard that who was it? John Smoltz was going to vote for the pitch clock, or maybe that was just to ban the shift. But either way,
probably both, to be honest with you. I don't know. He just thinks that the game is terrible now, and analytics kill everything, and the shift is horrible, and the game needs to be fast. We need to be basketball. I don't know. It's becoming a joke, honestly. Don't put a shot clock on the field. End of story. That's pretty much it. If they do, we'll probably talk about why it's a terrible idea on this show. But do you have anything to finish off with?
I think we talked about everything that should have been talked about.
Yeah. Thank you all for listening. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts, which we are now on, be sure to give us a 5-star rating and subscribe. If you are listening on Spotify, be sure to drop a follow. If you are listening on YouTube, be sure to drop a like. And if you're new, subscribe to the channel. If you're listening on Google Play, do whatever's on Google Play. I'm not really sure. I had an Android a few years ago, but thanks again, everyone, for listening, and we will see you all in the next episode.